There was times when I first moved in to this neighborhood where I would lay down and toss and turn in bed because I didn't know if I was gonna get some sleep or not, because sometimes I wouldn't be able to sleep. And I would think to myself, why can't I sleep? Why is it that I am having a hard time sleeping? What's wrong with me? I never had this problem. I didn't have this problem before. And I would look outside my window. I would get up and walk inside the apartment. I would open the door and look outside when it was raining. By the time you know it, it was already like 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the night. And there I was just looking out the window. I would always feel like footsteps following me or shadows around me, and there was no one really there. I would go outside, I would check to see if my neighbor was there outside on her patio, and there was nobody. And sometimes my neighbor would look out the door and say hi or good afternoon or goodbye, good night, and that was it. But it was strange because we didn't expect for us to move so many times and to end up here in this city that we're in. At least I didn't think so. And so I would open the window and I would think about all the expenses that I needed for the apartment so it could be a private room and nobody would be able to see what I do on a daily basis. So I could have privacy in my apartment throughout the day. And I started to think of all the needs that we had for the apartment, like curtains, pillows for the bed, bed covers, chairs for the patio, a new television for the family room, and etc. And so I thought that opening the window, since we didn't have any curtains and since we had just moved in some time back, that opening the window would have helped. So I opened the window and our AC wasn't really good. The apartment was good for privacy, but we didn't cover the windows, and every now and then we would hear or feel murmuring or words coming from the other apartments. So I kind of thought to myself, it's probably just a neighbor or a nearby residential person walking by the property in the other side. So I laid down and I fell asleep and I looked out the window, and suddenly I see some people crossing over from the property that was behind the garden that was part of our apartment property. And I didn't know the names. I didn't know why, but I didn't see those people ever again. And if I did, I don't know their names and I don't remember them very well. And so I said, maybe they're just some residentials that live around the area. So I became friends with one of the neighbors and I started to kind of try to be friends with everybody else. But some people moved out and some people moved in into the property, into the apartments that we were in. So I always ask myself, what were those shadows or footsteps or sounds that were coming out from the backyard? What was it? Or why is it that I always feel somebody staring or watching me and it's just me all the time? So it kind of scared me to think that another person would be following my footsteps and following me for a long time. I would understand a few minutes, a few hours, probably a day or two, but a whole year, a whole 5, 6 years, that's not normal. So I started to suspect that somebody was out to get me and that I didn't know who the person was. And it couldn't have been my mom because my mom and me live in the same apartment and we share everything that we do on a daily basis. So it couldn't have been my mom. And I know it wasn't my mom because my mom is not a man, she's a female. And from the looks of it, the person didn't look anything like my mom. The person felt like a little younger on the age, taller, and it felt like a masculine person following me. And this person felt a lot more different than my mom. But then I started to think that it was probably my mom or somebody that knew the family. And So I just always wanted to know why I always feel someone watching, someone following, or someone staring at me, but there's really nobody. And I haven't received any visitors, any calls, any messages from my friends that I met in school when I was a high school student or a middle school teenager. I haven't received any visits, any calls in the past 6 years that I've been here. I've been here since 2017 and we're in 2022. So I know it's not my friends from school or from the neighborhood that I lived in when I was growing up. And I didn't live just in one city, I lived in two different cities. We ended up here in San Juan we've been here for the last eight or more years, 8 or 10 years. And it hasn't been very easy finding friends or finding new people. So I kind of shared my thought to my mom and my idea of me not feeling comfortable with the environment or the neighbors that we have. And I kind of put out to her the view of my perspective and what I saw wrong. So I told her that I couldn't wait for us to move, that if she didn't want to move with me, that was fine, but for her to move me to a different apartment or a different neighborhood. And so she moved me to a different apartment, same property, but I didn't like it very much. So I told her that I didn't want to waste another year, another semester with these apartments, and that I wanted to go back to another city that we were in, a city that we lived in, and that we didn't have big problems at, but that we did have situations, but at school, not at home. So I'm thinking of moving back to either the city I was in growing up, which is far, Texas, or Alamo, Texas. So that's what I think I'm gonna do. And right now it's already been like 8 or 10 years in San Juan, and it hasn't been the same.